Hey there, in this video we are going to talk about linear functions and how to graph them. So first up, we want to talk about the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. It looks like this: y equals mx plus b, where your x and your y, those are the coordinates, and those are where you get your ordered pairs for each solution that lands on your line. The m is the slope, which we've used the slope formula previously to calculate a slope given a couple of points. But this is where it shows up in the slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. And then the b is where the line intersects the y-axis. So it's our y-intercept. Specifically, it's the y coordinate of the y-intercept is that b there. And so these two values, if we have them or can calculate them or find them, then we can just plug them into this formula and leave the x and y there, and we've got the equation of a line. So let's do a little practice with this. Just remembering that the slope formula is the difference of the y values over the difference of the x values if I am given points that I need to calculate it for. Okay, so our first example is write the equation of the line given the intercepts. So here I'm given 2 points that I'm told are the intercepts, and I know they're intercepts because I see 0 in the coordinates. I have 0, 3, and -1, 0. Now, it might help to graph this to visually see what's going on and see where we're intersecting, or just think about where these points would be located. If I have the point 0, 3, that means I went over 0 and I went up to 3. So that is my y-intercept. And then -1, 0, that means I went to the left to -1 and then I didn't go up or down. So that would be the x-intercept. And so they didn't give me a slope, but they did give me enough information to find the slope. And I know, because I've identified the y-intercept, I know that b is the y-coordinate of that y-intercept. So b is going to be 3. Only thing I need now is to calculate the slope for this line, and I can plug that in and get the equation. Sorry. So because I have 2 points, I can just use those to calculate it. So plugging those in, I'm going to do the second point goes first in the top and bottom. So I have 0 minus 3 when I subtract the y values, and -1 minus 0 when I subtract the x values in the denominator. That gives me -3 over -1, which simplifies to a +3. So b is 3, and the slope m is also 3. And I get the equation y equals 3x plus 3. And there's the equation of the line. Another way you could be asked this question is you could be given just any points and not necessarily the intercepts, in which case we could still calculate the slope, and then we would use the point slope formula if we don't have the y-intercept. And a third way of asking this question is to just give you a picture of the graph and ask you to figure out what the equation of that line is from the picture. So we'll go through a couple ways of using the image of a graph to come up with that equation of the line. First thing I want to do is identify the y-intercept. So I look for the spot where the line is crossing the y-axis, and here that's at the point 0, -2. It's going right through the y-axis at y equals -2. So that is my y-intercept, and that is my b value in this point in the slope-intercept form. B equals -2. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can find the slope from here. I could use the formula if you really like using the slope formula, or I can use the graph to kind of draw my way from one point to another. So to do that, either one of those, though, I need to identify a second point. And I'm looking for just anywhere on this graph where it's clearly, intersecting whole numbers, so I'm not estimating any values here. And I can see down in the bottom right corner there at 4, -5 is another really clear point on this graph. So I'm going to use that to find the slope. So to do it just using the graph, we're going to plot a course along the grid of our graph paper from one point to the other. So it ends up forming a triangle, where the hypotenuse of that triangle, the longest side, is my line that I'm trying to come up with the equation for. And then the legs of the triangle are the way that I would get from one point to the other following the grid lines. Now, we have that formula, the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's for slope. Another really common way we refer to the calculation of slope is the rise over the run, or rise divided by run, where rise is the vertical distance that we go from one point to another, and the run is the horizontal distance from one point to another. So looking at it from that perspective, the rise here, I'm going from, let's say if I start at the bottom right, I'm going from a -5 up to -3. That's up to -2. So that's a distance of -3. I'm going down to the right. So that's what I know, that I have a negative slope here. This line is decreasing. So I make that a negative. And then I'm going in a positive direction on the run there. And that distance is 4, going from 0 to 4. So my rise over run on my slope would be a -3 over 4. If I calculated it using the coordinates themselves, it would look like this: -5 minus -2 for the difference of the y's, over 4 minus 0 for the difference of the x values. So either way is fine. It's a good idea to just kind of label it, though, to explain how you got your slope. So I have my y-intercept, I have my slope. I can plug it into the slope-intercept formula to get y equals -3/4 x minus 2. And there is the equation of that line. Okay, there's a couple examples below this video for you to practice this a little bit more.